Hey everyone, welcome to episode 5 of 2025 of the Maasto Fitness Podcast. So today we're going to talk about the role of mobility and flexibility in racing and how it relates to your performance. So we keep these podcasts short and to the point. I'm Coach Tyler. I'm a fitness coach for racers off the bike, and I like to keep these podcasts sweet, short, and to the point, just like I do with our training. No fluff, no extra stuff, just the important things you do because we're all busy and we need to get back to what we're doing. And that's exactly how it is for our racers. They've got busy lives, juggling a lot going on. A lot of them are working racers with families and kids and trying to get it all done. So our training is efficient, and I try to keep our podcast the same way, getting you the information you need, try to keep them close to 10 minutes. So let's go ahead and jump into it today. Like I said, we are talking about the role of mobility and flexibility in racing. So specifically for racers, flexibility, mobility, what are the key differences? So flexibility is a passive range of motion. That's like how far you can stretch your hamstring without any effort. Now, mobility is active, usable range of motion. So that's how far you can move a joint under control. A perfect example is you might be able to pull your leg high with your hands. That's flexibility. But if you can't lift it there yourself, well, that's not a good example of mobility. And right, we need mobility on the bike. We need our body to be able to move and work with the machine and be able to move properly through a range of motions. So in racing, we need functional mobility. We need smooth movements that we're able to shift our weight fast and respond to the terrain or the way the bike's moving or what we're seeing coming in front of us, whether that's an obstacle, a tree, a route, or another racer. This is kind of always like one of the least exciting spots for racers, or one of the least exciting parts for racers, is talking about mobility and flexibility, and definitely doing it is never that as exciting. But it's kind of that completing the circle, like we need sleep, we need proper fueling, we need proper nutrition, we need strength, mobility, we need endurance, and all those kind of help complete that circle of training. And this is just one of those key pieces. So something that we want to make sure we're incorporating into our training and something we do to our racers. So let's talk about specifically when we talk about incorporating it into our racers, key areas riders need to focus on. So let's go ahead and just work through that. So first would be hips. Tight hips limit your ability to shift weight, stay centered on the bike, and absorb impact. This affects all aspects, cornering, rough terrain, staying in bike control, staying in the proper attack position on the bike. And tight hips happen so many ways. It doesn't really matter what type of career you have or lifestyle you live. You probably just have tight hips. Like for me, despite being a fitness coach and my life kind of revolving around health and fitness, I spend a lot of time sitting in front of a computer. So I'm sitting with my legs at 90 degrees, and therefore I just have chronically tight hips. My hip flexors are really tight in the front, and I need to keep up on it because what I find happens is I can't open my hips as much as they need. So I think a good example here would be for me running. If I don't keep up on hip mobility, I can't kick my leg as far behind me as I should be when I'm running. And that causes my pelvis to kind of tip forward and me to put a lot of strain on my lower back. And if you've ever kind of experienced anything like this, that can often come from having tight hip flexors, and it shows up in the form of lower back pain, glute pain, hamstring pain, because your body's not able to move through the proper range of motions. Now, like I said, I just gave a running example, but how that relates to riding is we're not able to move around on the bike properly. Our hips are too closed and too tight. So if you have a job where you sit a lot or you are in the same position a lot of the day, you probably have chronically tight hips and something you want to look into. So that's our first area, is the hips. Very important. That's kind of like lower body starting to connect the core of the body, the center of the body. So we need to make sure that moves through a proper range of motion. Next is shoulders. Stiff shoulders reduce arm movement and increase fatigue. So a limited range of motion here can contribute to two things. Arm pump, because we're not able to actually move properly with the bike, and we're squeezing on too hard because we don't have the proper mobility in our shoulders, which I'm moving my shoulder. So if you're seeing this on Spotify, that doesn't make any sense. And then poor posture over the bar. So our shoulders need to be in a certain position so our arms and elbows can be in a certain position. We know how important elbows up are. And if we don't have the correct shoulder mobility, well, it's going to be hard to keep elbows up. If you have poor shoulder mobility, when you try to put your elbows up, it might feel more like you're taking your shoulders to your ears because you don't have that proper range of motion. So making sure you've got shoulders that move where they need to go. Next is our upper back. So upper back, very important. for twisting, balance, and holding, once again, that proper athletic position, that upright position. If your thoracic spine, your upper back, is locked up, your lower back and neck need to compensate. And that's a great way to fast track yourself to injury, which is the last thing we want. And, that can come in two different ways. That can come in an overuse injury type of way. So essentially, you're not able to have your upper back in the correct position, maybe shoulders too rolled forward, for example, and then therefore your neck and lower back are doing all the work. Well, they're doing way too much work because things aren't balanced, and you get injured from that overuse injury, like literally straining yourself. Or the other way is, unfortunately, we crash as part of the sport and we don't have that proper range of motion with our thoracic spine, and something's got to give. And that's how we end up with an injury that, in theory, maybe could have been avoided if we had proper range of motion and flexibility and mobility with our thoracic spine. Uh, Next, let's go ahead and dive into some drills you can do as a racer. So, the one cool thing I think about flexibility and mobility is it's something we can do anywhere and oftentimes when we're doing other things. So, if you're like hanging out in the evening watching TV, if you're watching your kids, if you're in school and you're studying, you can do some flexibility and mobility work, all those situations, without really taking away too much from the other thing you're doing. So you can kind of double up on them. And, like I said, I work with a lot of people who are really busy. That's just how life is as a racer, trying to balance competing on the weekends and career, family, everything else on the weekdays. So, I always like to think of these things like how can we fit it in? How can we make it work? So let's dive into some of those great stretches we can do. These are things that our athletes have in their program, weekly program. All these movements I'm going to talk about, when our athletes get these movements, there's videos linked to them. So they know exactly how to do it. There's no guessing, making sure they're in the correct body position or doing the correct things. The videos are right there to guide them through. So first, I'll take you through a great one is those 90-90 hip stretches. This really loosens up hip rotation. Great for making sure you're able to plant your foot or place your foot in the correct place in corners. Or if you're riding hard enduro, you're able to properly push your foot off of the correct things without causing injury or pain. And that kind of comes back to that hip mobility I talked about earlier. Next one, world's greatest stretch. This is really a full body stretch if you look this one up. And it's just really going to target hips, hamstrings, spine. You're going to really be twisting your spine on this one. And it's a great one to kind of help connect all the pieces, work a little bit on balance, and get that flexibility and mobility where it needs to be. Next one, this one requires a tool, pull aparts with a band. So great for shoulder health and posture. Once again, going back to talking about shoulder and that thoracic spine. So this is one you can uh, do on a wall. You can do it as like a wall angel with a band. You can do it up overhead and behind you with a band. All these just help working that shoulder mobility and making sure the flexibility is there for those two key things, right? Holding the correct position on the bike without it causing pain or discomfort. And then, in the chance we go down, we want things to be able to move instead of stretch and break. And, when you have that proper flexibility and mobility, you might take what could have been a break to a strain. You might take what could have been a strain to just a little ouch pinch. You could have taken what has been a little ouch pinch to almost no pain, maybe when you hit the dirt in terms of causing a problem at that located at that local area. So you can think about that for like the band pull aparts. Just, sometimes when we hit the ground, it's hard to control where our limbs are going to go. Might as well make sure they can work through a range of motion when we hit the ground. Then next is the cat cow and spine rotations. So this is just a good one for upper and lower back and works a little bit of hips as well, keeping things moving. And then finally, this one's really open-ended and it's foam rolling. If you're not familiar with a foam roller, it's, maybe 5 inches tall, just a big long roller. They're made of foam plastic. You can get them in various different densities. But basically, you're going to take that foam roller and you're going to work it completely across a muscle. And it's going to help reduce tension and improve tissue quality. Something that definitely is good to do after workouts, after rides when things are warm and really pliable. A good way to just kind of work them out. Also a good way to help a little bit with recovery as well. But that foam roller, wow, you can do a lot of great things with it. Something I suggest for all of our athletes to have. I actually have a little one that actually flattens so I can travel with it. So no matter where we're going, I've got my foam roller because it's just a really good tool to have. It's a good tool you can also use to just work on pressure points. So like if you have really tight calves, you kind of feel like almost a knot in a calf, you can take that foam roller, get your body weight up on it, roll to that spot, hold for 20 to 30 seconds. Sometimes can really help relieve those knots. And I say calves because I kind of have chronically tight calves, always have, probably always will because I spend a lot of time working on them and I have all the tools, but they're always just a little tight on me. So foam roller is just a great thing to have with you and to work on. And then, if these stretches, a great way to incorporate them is you can either do them when you're done with a workout. So like as part of your cool down is a great time to do stretches. I do not suggest doing them before. I don't suggest doing stretches after. Or once again, something like when you're trying to double up, you know, like watching TV, hanging out with the kids, whatever it may be. Um, Go ahead and bust out some of these movements and exercises, kind of double up and start working on your flexibility and mobility. Just with any stretch or anything, work into it. Sometimes if you like watch a video, don't expect to be able to do what that person does in that video. That person probably does flexibility and mobility every day for years. You got to meet yourself with where you're at in the journey. So don't cause any pain. Listen to your body on those. So let's go ahead. What's the takeaway here? So don't wait until you're injured to address mobility. Something you can do now. It's not super exciting, but it's really easy to get into. You don't really need any extra gear or anything. You just need to spend a little bit of time doing it. So jump into it now. Don't wait till you're injured. And then with that, build a habit. Just start spending 5 to 10 minutes a day. And that's going to help you unlock smoother riding, faster reaction times, and reduce your chance of injury. So a couple minutes really adds up. You think about 10 minutes a day. Well, that doesn't seem like anything. Well, what's that over 7 days? An hour and 10 minutes. So really, it does add up. Those little minutes add up and add up and add up. And that's how we get faster, stronger, no matter what it is we're doing. And so that's going to be it for today. Next week, I'm going to talk about biggest mistakes that riders make and how you can avoid them in terms of training off the bike and things we can do. So I'll leave it there today. And, I'm Coach Tyler, run Maasto Fitness, maastofitnessmx.com. If you want to give our training a try, just send me a message on Instagram. Go to our website, send me a message, hook you up with a free week of training so you can try it out. We've got tons of programs, something that works for everyone. So don't hesitate to reach out because our goal is to have everyone racing faster and safer. See you guys next week.